I'm Joel Ankney. I'm a lawyer who helps people buy and sell small businesses, and I'm the author of the book, Here's the Deal, Everything You Wish a Lawyer Would Tell You About Buying a Small Business. Earlier this year, I was invited to speak to the Entrepreneurship Through Acquisition class at the Columbia Business School about the legal process of buying a small business. And I'm making this video to share with you the presentation that I gave to the ETA class because I think the information is relevant for anybody who's thinking about buying or even selling a small business. So finally, how do you find a lawyer to help you with your small business acquisition? There are a couple things I think you should keep in mind. One is that you should find an attorney who has experience handling small business acquisitions and sales. There are many attorneys out there who are wonderful trial attorneys, but in my experience, litigation requires a different skill set and a different approach than handling a transaction. I recommend that you look for somebody who has experience handling business transactions. Now, you'll likely see on website bios that attorneys have experience in both litigation, trial, etc., and business transactions, but I think you really need to interview the attorney to understand their experience. You'll also want to look at their demeanor, their approach to handling transactions. Are they deal makers? Do they try and facilitate the deal, keep the deal moving forward, or are they adversarial? Is every issue a significant battle? One of the things I think a good transactional attorney can do is to help you filter issues. Which issues are more important in negotiation, which issues can be abandoned or given up in exchange for something else. If the attorney's approach is to treat every issue as a significant and serious issue, in other words, they don't make any differentiation in the weight or the seriousness of the issue, that may slow the deal down. That may make negotiations more difficult. My approach is when I have a willing buyer and a willing seller, I assume that the intent is that everybody wants to close the deal, and I'm going to work with them in a way that will help them get to that objective. Do you need an attorney in a big law firm, or can you use an attorney in a small law firm? Well, I'm a little biased on that because although I spent the first 12 years of my career at big law firms and had wonderful experiences there and received a lot of good training and worked on a lot of interesting and complicated transactions, I've been a solo attorney for the last 20 years, and I've been able to bring the experience that I received at the big law firm to smaller transactions. I think there is a possibility that you could over-lawyer a transaction, and what that'll do, it'll increase the time likely that you'll need to close. It may also increase the difficulty of the negotiations, and when you use attorneys at big law firms, your legal fees are just going to be higher. Where do you find a lawyer to help you with your acquisition? You certainly can do online research, look at people's websites, you can look at their ads, but I think one of the strongest ways to find an attorney to help you with your transaction is to ask for a referral. So for example, if you have a trusted business partner or a trusted accountant, or if you know a lawyer who perhaps is a trial attorney, you can ask those individuals if they have somebody that they recommend or that they can refer to you who can help them with their transaction. Almost all of my clients come to me because they've been referred to me by someone else, either another attorney, an accountant, a business broker, or a client that I've represented in an acquisition in the past. I suggest you identify a couple of attorneys, 2 or 3 or 4 attorneys that you want to interview about representing you in the transaction, and that you have either an initial phone call with them, a Zoom call, or even a meeting with them to understand who they are, if they fit well with you and your transaction, and to understand their approach to negotiating and closing acquisitions. The last burning question is, how much is it going to cost? What are the legal fees going to be? I've been doing this for over 25 years. I've handled many, many transactions with a purchase price between $1 and $5 million. When a potential buyer calls me and we go through these burning questions and we get to this particular question about how much it's going to cost, I do ask a couple of questions. Questions like, what's the purchase price? How are you going to finance the purchase price? How are you going to pay the purchase price? price? Are you getting an SBA loan? Are you looking for private investors to help you? All those things help me understand how much legal services need to be provided in connection with the transaction. But for the most part, I know that based on my hourly rate and the time that it takes me to help a buyer with a transaction, that if they have a transaction that has a purchase price of between $1 and $5 million, they should budget between $12,000 and $15,000 to pay for legal fees. Now, sometimes my legal fees are less than that. Sometimes they might be a little bit more, but typically that's a great range to start with, and it's going to vary just based on all these factors that we've already talked about: complexity, lawyers on the other side, lenders, landlords, things like that. I have prospective buyers who ask me how I determine my fees, and I do it the way that attorneys have done it for so many years. I have an hourly rate, and I simply keep track of the time that I work on the project, and then my legal fees are basically the amount of time I worked multiplied by my hourly rate to determine the fees. Now, some people don't really like that because they think that gives me an incentive to bill lots of time. What I tell people is I've been doing this for a very long time. I wouldn't continue to get a lot of clients in business if I became known for a person who overbilled or padded my time. And so you need to trust me that I'll use my reasonable discretion on determining what's fair and how much time I need to spend on different aspects of the project. People will ask me if I'll take a flat fee, if I'll take a contingency. The answer to those questions is I haven't become comfortable enough at this point with those alternative billing approaches. I've heard of other transactional attorneys who will take flat fees, but I've also learned that those flat fees are typically much higher than the estimated fees that I quote my potential clients. So if you want to pay me a much higher flat fee than what I quote for my estimate, I guess that could be okay with me, but again, that's not my style. From a contingency perspective, it doesn't really make a lot of sense to take a transaction on a contingency when you're representing a buyer. A contingency means that I would take a percentage of, for example, the purchase price as my fee. It doesn't make a lot of sense from a buyer's perspective. It may make a little bit more sense from a seller's perspective. But again, if I were to determine what that percentage would be, I think I would, because of the risk involved of not closing the transaction, that percentage would probably be high enough that it would exceed the estimated hourly budget that I quote to people. So I just stay away from those at this point. A related question to the fee question is, when does the fee get paid? I leave that up to my clients typically. Many attorneys like to get paid on a monthly basis, and I give that option to my clients, and some clients take it. But one of the other options I give them is the option to defer my fees until the closing. Many times buyers like to defer my fee to the closing because they're going to pay my fee out of the loan proceeds they receive at the closing, and I'm okay with that. Thank you for watching my presentation. If you have more questions or want to learn more about the process of buying or selling a small business, you can see my contact information here on this last slide. If you want to buy my book or listen to the audiobook, you can find the print book on Amazon and the audiobook on Audible. I also maintain a blog at my website, so if you have other questions, you might look there first to see if you can find an answer there. Thanks.